It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
The lottery is not about getting rich. It's about helping people, and it always has been. The lottery is what helped raise the Great Wall of China, build the roads of Rome, and today in South Carolina, it's what generates millions of dollars each year for scholarships like the SC Hope, Life, and Palmetto Fellows. The South Carolina Education Lottery is investing in you. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou to learn more.
Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5.
It's going to be a very emotional Top 5 at 5 today because it will include not a visit with Lou Nanne, which has been the tradition on this show when it's quarterfinal, AA quarterfinal Thursday, but with another hockey legend. More on that later. I assume we're going to build up to that, or are we going to start with it? What's the approach, Brett?
That is up to you. I'd be down. He's on standby. Do you want to just go right to it?
No, let's build up. If he can hang and be a little patient, let's sort of build up to it so it's almost like it's built to a crescendo.
Sure. Well, we'll go with this. We'll start here. Actually, it's not official until I do this.
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
Yeah, the Wild are in Vancouver tomorrow. Gustafsson will be in net. Ryan Hartman moves up to the top line. But we had Russo Radio on, basically talking trade deadline. And I want to peacock a little bit because I've been calling and mocked and ridiculed on Beyond the Pond for suggesting that the Wild should go after Brock Besser, and for liking him, his style of play, mocked on that show, and here we are.
Who's doing the mocking? Is it Fallness, or is it Tenabe, or
Micheletti and Fallness mostly?
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
They like to gang up on me.
They don't think he's worth the trouble, or they don't think he's gettable?
He's just he doesn't play 200-foot game.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Meanwhile, Russo,
yeah.
The chickens come home to roost for me. Well, so he wants to go after him.
The thrust of the Russo conversation today was still not utterly convinced that the Wild are not going to end up shutting down one of their star players for the rest of the regular season if there's a good, really juicy deal dangled in front of Billy Guerin, or that Billy Guerin goes after. And the deadline, I think he told us, was at 2 o'clock Central tomorrow, the trade deadline?
Yep.
So at the time we're on the air tomorrow, we'll know if there's anything ambitious. Now, Russo admits there's a chance it could be a dud, that nothing significant might happen. But he's more and more convinced that the slow cooking, especially as it pertains to Kaprizov, means he ain't going to have much of a runway at all for the playoffs. And so he wonders if it's still possible that if it means making a more ambitious deal that can help this team, not just the rest of this year, but next season, that they might be more willing to say we are going to shut somebody down. So stay tuned. We'll know in less than 24 hours. And I think that's the most intriguing angle to follow here the rest of the way until the deadline.
Yeah, it's just, is it worth potentially upsetting your star player? That's the bridge they've got to go over.
That's what we talked about. You're exactly right.
As far as your Timberwolves go, I believe the complete as far away from the Wild as you could possibly get tomorrow night. Wild in Vancouver, Timberwolves in Miami tomorrow night. But the good news for the Wolves, Rudy Gobert has been upgraded to questionable. Okay. So with what's listed as low back injury maintenance. So wordy, but up to questionable. So good news, maybe Rudy on the return.
Well, that is, I think, because he's been out. How many games has he missed now? Is it 10? I want to say like 10 games. It's at least, I feel like it's in that range. Let me see if I can find it here on the fly. And he was out. We didn't need him, obviously, for Charlotte. Rudy's been ruled out in every game since the All-Star break. Hadn't played since Feb 12, so I don't have the math in front of me. But what's the date? Well, we're already in March.
The 6th.
Right. So, so basically 3 weeks. The concern, I think, with Rudy, obviously, is it going to be a chronic deal? And I know the people who hate Rudy are going, well, look how good the offenses look sometimes because there's nobody clogging things up in the middle. So we'll have to see about that. But it's also affected them adversely at significant times defensively as well. Miami, they've had a disappointing season. They had the Butler fallout, but they're certainly beatable. But that falls into the classification of, well, if you mess around, play with your food in Miami, you could lose there too. So we'll see how this thing goes if the Wolves can keep things going in Miami.
I've got 3 little NFL bits.
Okay.
Some people moving around. I'm just going to rapid fire at you and see which one you like the most for 3, 4, and 5. The Jags have traded Christian Kirk, wide receiver, to the Texans for a 2026 7th-round pick. That has happened. The second straight year, Bengals defensive end Trey Hendrickson has permission to seek a trade. And then the Jags have also released Evan Ingram. So tight ends that anyone could pick up willy-nilly.
Okay.
So there's 3 NFL bits. I think the Christian Kirk's probably the biggest news of the day.
That's true.
But defensive ends, if you want them, if you want an edge rusher, you can get them.
Well, yeah, edge rushers are important. I think the Bears are sniffing around one of them. And then, as I said yesterday, they added, the last couple of days, they've added a couple of interior offensive linemen, which we all believe your Minnesota Vikings could use too, although most of the discussion lately seems to be about at the cornerback position. We've added, we're protecting ourselves at the safety position. I think the weekly guest, the Bumper to Bumper show during the football season, Cam Bynum, I think it's starting to feel more and more likely that he's not going to be back here. I hope he is. But I'm beginning to think that might be an issue, and there's the open question on hitman Harrison Smith as well.
Are you ready for a trip over to St. Paul?
Halvy, are you out of breath or are you okay?
I'm emotional. I'm about as emotional as you are because this was my time where I had to make sure that everything was set up with Louie and ready to go.
That's true.
And, it was weird walking up here this morning and not seeing Lou and not having his presence here, and certainly missed. I had no idea, by the way, he was not only not going to even show up, but not even be in the same time zone. He's with the Wild thousands of miles away, but his presence is missed around here, but we're still having fun.
Well, they're still playing the games, and they're going to keep playing the games, and he would expect no less. It does feel odd for me, no question, after all these decades, and watching tonight especially, I think it'll be a little bit funky. But as he said, he's comfortable with the decision. Let's concentrate on the hockey. So we got 2 games in the books. Tell me a little bit. Give me sort of your bullet points on Stillwater's victory over Andover and St. Thomas Academy holding off Shakopee.
The Ponies are just playing out of their minds right now. They are the hottest team, I think, other than Moorhead in high school hockey, and they earned that number 2 seed with a victory over a Hill Murray team that was at that time the number 1 team in the state in that section final, and they're playing very, very good. Can't blame Andover. It was the Ponies' game from start to finish, and they have just some incredible goal scorers and great goaltending in Cal Conway. So just an impressive effort this morning, afternoon. And then, of course, Shakopee and St. Thomas Academy. My goodness, what a hockey game that was. A couple of heavy hitters here in Class 2A. And, St. Thomas Academy just, barely got here at a double overtime win over Cretin last week. And, you just talk about the bounces, things that could have gone differently. They couldn't even been here. Now they've booked themselves a spot in a very tough state semifinal on tomorrow night against Stillwater. It's going to be certainly they're going to have their hands full for sure, but still should be a very interesting one.
So you of course been broadcasting the games, had both games on the Plus, and then tonight after we are going till 6:30 tonight. We have clarified, and then we'll pick up action on the 6:00 game, which is Lakeville South versus Moorhead, and then Edina Rogers. So it'll switch over from the Plus. Starting at 6 to KFAN when we wrap things up at 6:30. Moorhead, as you know, is the top seed. Do you think they are the team to beat or not so much?
No doubt about it. They are stacked. They are loaded. I think this might finally be Moorhead's year to actually go all the way. I normally root for the underdogs here, but the Spuds team is a very easy team to root for. They've obviously got the NHL connections with the Collins, and I saw them play Hill Murray a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, back at Aldridge, and it was. I mean, those two teams especially were on a completely different level than what I've seen across the high school hockey landscape, and they're just a very, very fun team. I very much expect them to take care of business tonight, and they will. Whether it's Edina or Rogers, I think Moorhead's still the heavy favorite, but obviously. Anything can happen here, especially when it comes to kids in high school hockey. But yeah, Moorhead is a very, very good hockey team, among the best I've seen in a long, long time.
The late game is, as you said, Edina Rogers. That's the 4-5. Edina's the 5. Rogers the 4. Who do you like in that game?
It could go either way. I think, we saw, especially like yesterday, for example, when in the Class A quarterfinals, Orono versus Northfield. Orono, the 6 seed, Northfield, the 3 seed, and Orono ended up running away with it. And Orono, no stranger to the X, a little different side of things on the Northfield side. And now, obviously, tonight you got Rogers, who this is only the beginning. They will be here for very, very frequently, I think, in the future. They've built a wonderful program up there, and got that 4 seed. And it's very weird, by the way. To see Edina at a number 5 seed. I don't know and just to have them playing at 8:00 on Thursday night, it feels a little bizarre, but. The question obviously is going to be how does the experience of Kurt Giles and this squad that won, some of those players obviously won the state tournament last year. How much is that experience going to help them against a Rogers team, which I think, as the coaches decided from a seeding standpoint, and just from an eye standpoint, I think they are the more talented team, but. I think the experience of the state tournament is such a big factor. So, that game could go either way. I think I like Rogers, but
okay.
It's tough because, like I said, it's Edina, it's the Hornets, it's the Cake Eaters, and they are very, very familiar with the grounds here at St. Paul.
You're in your element over there, aren't you, Halvy?
Yeah,
this is it. I mean, you sense it. I mean, this is you. You've been doing this forever, and you do not sound out of breath this year. Gargi thought it was 10 years ago. Does that infamous soundbite go back that far? Was it 10 years ago where you had your famous sprint across the press box that we still play?
We're getting there. I think it's 8 years. I think it was 2017 was my first spring here at the Fan, and that was crazy. That was a lot of fun time.
Well, it's still, honest to God, we get more requests for that. In fact, why don't we, Brett Breakpoint, do you have it? Let's play it so that we have Halvy in live real time, and then we have Halvy from back then during a top 5 at 5 8 years ago.
Now let's head to the X for a high school hockey tournament update.
Well, let me make sure he's there. Hang on.
I thought he was there. Oh, he's not even ready yet? Zach, are you there yet? Did you find him?
I found him.
That's outstanding.
Hey, Zach, you there?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was just in the press conference for Bruce Pland after their 6-5 victory over St. Cloud Cathedral, and they're obviously pretty happy. A heck of a hockey game, the second of 2 great games here at the X thus far. It sets up a Class A championship game tomorrow between Hermantown and Monticello Annandale Maple Lake. So, Garzi, Barreiro, it's going to be a
why don't you catch your breath?
Why
don't you head to Trio?
Zach, are you all right?
I literally sprinted across the Bell Saber press box.
Is there a medic at the XL Energy Center? Trio Orthopedic Center.
All right, we'll take over from here, and we'll get back to you a little bit later. You catch your breath. We don't want,
I think I'm ready.
You think you're ready now? You think
Yes, I think so.
All right, well then.
Hold on, if you're not, don't.
I got an echo in my ear, if you could take that out.
He's got an echo is what he's going. Abbott. It's Abbott's fault that he's got an echo, probably. How good is that? Isn't it great?
I forget about is how I gave her hell in the beginning of that.
You did.
I was all
Try
right.
your damnedest.
Right at the beginning, and then it just slowly but surely trickled down. And, and the breath caught up to me. But
reality set in. Yeah.
What a great first year moment here at the fan.
But, it's got lasting impact. Larry Mondello guy has a question for you. Let me move the scroll down here to get to the question. Is it true that when Dan said they'd be having on another Minnesota hockey legend, that Halvy went to get something to eat because he thought you were talking about someone else? That's Larry Mondello guy's reaction to the hockey legend talk. So big shoes to fill.
Yeah, I was wondering when you said that. I was like, that's not me.
Who are we talking about? No.
But yeah.
We'll look forward. I'll look forward to listening on the way home after the program. So it'll be on the Plus starting at 6, moving over to the Fan when we wrap things up at 6:30. Have a wonderful night, Halvy. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. That's Zach Halverson, our guy, all over the state high school hockey tournament. Today, of course, 2A coverage, 2 games in the books, and 2 games yet tonight as well. I don't know if that's 5, but I think that's plenty. Top 5 at 5. We are wide open the rest of the way. We'll explore some interesting texts that have come in. Get to a couple of other controversies before we wrap things up at 6:30.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Get down to Tom's Watch Bar in Minneapolis this Friday and join the Power Trips Meat Sauce for a KFAN Wolves watch party. Will the Timberwolves versus Heat live on the big screens, delicious food, drinks, your chance to secure exclusive KFAN swag, and a chance to qualify for Wolves tickets later this season. All the details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Direction your love made a U-turn.
Lots of good texts have come in. I'm going to get to some of those in just a minute. Bumper to bumper on the Fan on a lovely Thursday evening. Days are getting longer. Look out to the west here, and the sun still hasn't gone down. That's very, very encouraging. Are we on the verge of daylight saving? When do we hit daylight saving?
This weekend.
Is it this weekend?
Spring forward.
That's what Lori Fisher suggested to me, and I could not remember. So that's good. That'll help too. That's another encouraging deal. Although somebody said we have one more major snow forecast for 8 days from now. It's one of those projected ones. So I don't know how true it was, but this last one certainly was packed a wallop.
Yeah, it's Sunday.
Sunday?
This Sunday we spring forward.
Okay, there you go. We've got some sound I want to play, and it's not all that different from, I think, some comments that Florio made with PA the day before. In this case, it's Florio with Dan Patrick, and it goes back to the Darnold dilemma, the Darnold domino, whatever alliterative expression you prefer, or maybe you have your own, which we've discussed a lot, obviously, in recent weeks. We know the Vikings have not franchised him. The open question is whether they are aggressively still attempting to get him back here at what would have to be, we assume, a reasonable price that would only be available to the Vikings if... Well, I think there's really 2 factors. One, there's not as much money for him as one might think out there in the open market. Or 2, Darnold himself is convinced that he does not want to go to a developmental club because he'll perhaps be traumatized once again. The old, maybe he would take a hometown discount if he knows he's staying at a place where he's had some success and the infrastructure is pretty solid. But I think this is all, it's on the Dan Patrick Show, but it's Florio addressing that very situation about the possibility of Darnold coming back to the Vikings. And he raises a couple of shock jockey observations that I know got PA's attention as well towards the end. Let's listen.
What's the market for Sam Darnold now?
Nobody really knows, because the big question is, can what Sam Darnold did last year with Kevin O'Connell, drawing up the plays, with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson catching the passes? Can that be duplicated somewhere else? Or does he revert to the seeing ghosts Sam Darnold from early in his career, that Monday night game when he was with the Jets against the Patriots? So if you make a major financial investment in Darnold and you can't replicate what happened in Minnesota, you made a mistake. I mean, Darnold, and I think a lot of it had to do with how it ended. That Week 18 game that everybody saw, he got the yips at the worst possible time, biggest game of his life. And then the Vikings didn't show up across the board in the playoff game. That's the caveat now. And I think that's why the Vikings are still kind of lurking here as they figure out, do we go with Darnold where we know what the floor is? Maybe the ceiling isn't as high as we'd like. Or do we go with a guy that we don't know what he's going to be because he hasn't played yet, in J.J. McCarthy? And I have a feeling they're really wrestling internally. People who have been dealing with the Vikings come away with the conclusion that they don't know who's running the show and calling the shots, but they're going to have to make a decision fairly soon. They might let Darnold go out there and see what's available or what's not available. And then maybe whatever they have budgeted is kind of a lowball number. Maybe that's what he takes. And that makes the decision for them. But there is some dismay. And if he does like a 2-year deal to stay in Minnesota and the Vikings say, oh, we'll just do the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, J.J. McCarthy sits for 3 years, I believe that's not going to go over well with McCarthy. And the next domino could be McCarthy saying, I want out.
Shock. Florio. Covering a lot of ground there. The most intriguing observation for me, and I've not heard, and we'll run this by Ben Gessling tomorrow, is the notion that there's confusion about who's running the show here. That would seem to indicate, is it Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah or is it Kevin O'Connell? Only one of the two has had his contract extended, right? People keep insisting to us there's nothing to see here, that it's just taking longer, but it's not indicative of any sort of schism or any less likely that indeed the general manager is going to be extended. But I'd like to hear other people who cover this team more closely, whether they buy the possibility that the Vikings are sending out some mixed messages, or there is a question of whether, because I think I've always wondered, since the KOC extension, was there a chance that part of what he got out of that deal was a little bit more authority, either spoken or unspoken, where he's not the de facto general manager, but he's got more power in some ways than what, generally he's had as a head coach? I don't know the answer to that question, but I do think it's an intriguing one, worthy of consideration. Now, the juicy part was the idea that if the Vikings did find a way to bring him back, whether JJ would get antsy, especially, I guess, if you presume it's a 2-year deal, that his people would say, no, that not going to work. We were fine. Our guy got hurt. We might have even been fine waiting 1 more year, but we ain't going to wait 2 more years. Now, on the other hand, the Vikings, I'm sure, could say, well, there's no guarantee that Sam Darnold's going to be the starting quarterback halfway through this season, let alone into a 3rd season. Calm down. This is just all insurance for us, and we can play this game because the amount of money here is not prohibitive. Scoggins raised what we talked about a little bit yesterday, where it gets tricky for Darnold. I mean, the assumption is Darnold would rather come back, all things being equal, because he knows the system here. He has trust in the quarterback whisperer, and he's with a good team, right? Maybe not a championship team, but a good team. And some of the teams that he would go to outside of here would be teams that are very questionable. So what do you want out of life at this late date, now that you've discovered and enjoyed a little bit of success? The X factor for Darnold is more pressure this year. If he comes back as the starter and struggles early, he's immediately got Vikings fans on his back, right? There's not any question there would be chance for JJ. Whether that's even fair to Darnold isn't going to matter. A year ago, it's a problem he didn't have to worry about. I mean, Darnold could have struggled mightily for 3 weeks in a row. And there was, I don't think, a lot of clamor. There wasn't going to be a lot of clamor for putting Nick Mullins in. There might have been a little bit of clamor late for Danny Dimes, but not so much early. This coming year, there will be added pressure from within on Sam Darnold if he is brought back. So it raises intriguing questions, I think. And hopefully we'll get some follow-up on some of what Florio had to say with Ben Gessling as well. Seifert's opinion is we're going to know quick. Free agency, I think, starts officially next week, early next week, and that it ain't going to take a lot of time for us to get this thing resolved. And I'm sure the Vikings would obviously like to get it resolved. The question is, what's the magic number financially? I've said all along, 2 years, $40 million, that I would absolutely consider bringing him back at 2 years. In other words, $20 million for each of the next 2 seasons, with the assumption that the second year is not going to be guaranteed, and that there's a very good reason to believe that he might not even be starting by what would here be year number 3 for him, but the second year of the contract extension or the new deal. I don't want to go anywhere above that. I know there are other people who want the clean break. They say there is no number to bring him back because this is too weird. You're trying to force it, and I think people are a little bit too cocky about what JJ represents and projecting that from the beginning he's going to be a superstar quarterback and will be on the fast track. Look, when the Vikings signed Darnold, I was bored with it. I didn't think it was going to last. I wasn't even sure it was going to last the whole season. But I think you're allowed to change view as the story changes. And he played well enough, long enough, that I think you can't just dismiss the idea of giving him more time. If there's a team, Pete Carroll's club, the Raiders, that is perfectly willing to spend, I don't know, what would you say? Let's say 3 years, $90 million, then that's moot. You're not going to do that. You can't do that, nor would I recommend that you do it. For some reason, the number 20 mil comes into my head where I go, that doesn't offend me. That's 10 million more. That doesn't blow your salary, all of your salary cap by any means. It hurts some of it, I'll grant, but it's not. I don't think it's excessive. I still would have preferred franchising him, but maybe I'm unrealistic because maybe they investigated, did the Vikings, and they learned that the market was just not going to be there. That there were going to be teams interested in him, but they would just want to sign him as a free agent. They don't want to give up draft capital to go along with it as well. So maybe in the end, the Vikings backed away from that premise because they had to, because they realized that if they weren't careful, they were going to be stuck with him. And then at that price, it was going to be between 40 and 45 million bucks. A couple texts, Matt in St. Paul. I'm not sure why you want to pull up Packers and waste the rookie salary cap situation. You're not wasting it. If you give him $20 million a year, you're not wasting it. When people talk about the quarterback position and for being market value, you're talking about $35, $40, $50 million a year. So I don't think you are wasting it. This is why the Vikings will not bring back Sam Darnold. I don't know why you don't seem to understand that fully. Much respect, Matty in St. Paul. I think if he hadn't played as well as he did, then I'm fine with let's just move on. I think you can't ignore the production that took place and just throw it out indiscriminately. I think that's the mistake people are making. I think there's times where you have to modify whatever in theory looked very, very good. Dan, I want you to consider this. We can agree that each of these facts is true. J.J. McCarthy is the quarterback of the future. J.J. McCarthy may not be 100% to start the season after missing his entire rookie season with an injury. But the Vikings have a lot of cap space. This might not be the best free agent class. Aaron Rodgers is the perfect fit. A 1-year deal kicks the cap space to next season, gives you a high-risk, high-reward quarterback for 2024, and provides an easy out if he's bad or J.J. is good. Who says no? I would 100% root for that story because I like juicy stories. I would absolutely be delighted if that's the wild card that we haven't spent very much time on recently that ends up to be the way this story goes. I think it's unlikely. I don't know that I trust Rodgers at this point. There's a little voice in the back of my head that does say, but wait a minute. If you look at a lot of his numbers last year, they weren't as awful as the perception of Rodgers, But also, when I watched him, I got to say, he just didn't look right to me. It didn't look like he could get the ball downfield. It looked like he was not as accurate as he was before. And there's a part of me that says he's just done. It was a good run, but it's done. Now, the better story is what? After a relative struggles, certainly from a Jets team standpoint, he still says, I ain't going out like that, man. I ain't going out like that. Give me another shot wherever, and I'm going to surprise you. Is that impossible? No, it's not impossible. I don't know that it's likely that the Vikings will indeed do it. The chance of Darnold coming back at his value of $35 to $40 million a year is 0%. Well, that's from 763 guy. How do we know this? Because I'll say again, if we do, then to me it would have been easy to franchise him if you know there's that much interest in him at that particular price. So I don't know that it's that automatic at all. I thought it would be, but if you listen to Florio, here's the rub for other teams that aren't very good. They too could look at this and say, he's promising, but he's not a guy who's going to lift you if you don't have good people around him. We don't have enough good people around him. So there's as much chance or even greater chance that he's going to look more like the guy who toiled for the Jets as the guy who excelled for the Vikings. That's the question on price is, do teams go, we don't trust ourselves enough to be that interested in Darnold because we don't think we're good enough, and then we don't want to be spinning our wheels needlessly. We'll try to find an even cheaper bridge quarterback like a Daniel Jones, and then we'll try to draft, or we'll try to look in free agency for next year. We'll try to put this off for another year as well. I think that's also not beyond the realm of possibility. Can't overlook the Achilles. Rodgers and Cousins seem to have lost zip. Oh, I forgot about that. You're right. A-Rod did have an Achilles, didn't he? And he didn't look particularly mobile last year. And we know that number 18, I guess, with Atlanta, Kirk Cousins, he did not look particularly spry with them either. This is Dr. Phil from St. Michael. I think the Raiders with Pete Carroll would be a perfect fit for Darnold. I'll base that off of the career of Russell Wilson as he left Seattle. He is not. It must be a typo. It may appear that Russell Wilson a little more of a Seattle thing. Who's to say? Carroll comes to mind because he's a good coach. I don't think he's done, but I guess I haven't studied the Raiders enough to know. Are they close, or are we just assuming they're close because they got an established head coach? I'm not exactly sure. Let's do this. Let's get a pause in here. We'll have plenty of time to react to a number of other texts that have come in and tackle a couple more controversial subjects. We might even revisit a subject we explored very early in this program, the question of whether the cliche about being all in when it comes to commitment to whatever your bit might be, we're coming to find out is a bit overrated and perhaps a little bit more complicated than that. Don't go away.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Get ready to laugh out loud. Comedian Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias is coming to the Island Event Center September 6th and 7th. Don't miss out on a night of iconic jokes and nonstop laughter. Get your tickets today, TICasino.com.
What if, by the way, the hotshot quarterback from Michigan ain't ready to start from the beginning of the season? Don't you have to be prepared for that possibility, too? I mean, we've been told all the right things despite the early setback regarding his recovery. We don't know. We have no idea. You want to start the season with Mullins? I guess there's others you could probably latch on to. Danny Dimes is the other interesting X factor. Is there going to be a market for him? Not as robust even as Darnold, but enough where he might there's a chance he could start someplace else more permanently, and so might he rather go in that direction? I don't know. Hit the text line, 64686, Bradshaw and Bryant. KFAN text line. Don't forget, quarterfinals state high school hockey tournament will continue on the Fan tonight at 6:30. The third quarterfinal game starts at 6. And that game with Halvy on the play-by-play will be available to you on the Plus at 6 o'clock, and then we'll switch over to KFAN beginning at 6:30, which has kind of been the tradition here over the, I guess you'd say over the years. Lakeville South versus number 1 seed Moorhead is slated to start at 6. And then the nightcap tonight is Edina and Rogers, the 5 and 4 seeds, respectively. We talked much earlier in this broadcast today about what they kind of classify as the all-in concept. And by that we mean whether you're talking about, certainly you're talking about sports, but not just sports. There's been over the years a belief that the recipe for success is a very almost obsessive, single-minded focus on whatever the goal is, whatever the occupation is, whatever the task is. You're just eating, breathing, and sleeping it. And we often have stories written about individuals who are successful that seem to confirm that that is the ladder to success. That's the method to success. But I came upon an interesting essay in the Wall Street Journal by a runner by the name of Steve Magnus. And he's offering, he thinks, with good, research backing it up, to something different than what the perception is regarding that all in, she's all in concept. That, in fact, that sort of single-mindedness has its limits. And that what he learned the hard way was that the best way to get to that place, obviously talent is involved, it's not just hard work. Talent has something to do with it, maybe luck to a certain extent. That having other things in your existence actually contributes or gives you a better chance statistically of however you want to measure success. We quoted a survey he quoted of more than 5,000 would-be entrepreneurs who didn't go all in on whatever their passion was. They kept their day jobs, and that those individuals were actually less likely to fail. Michigan State researchers looked at over 100 years of Nobel Prize-winning scientists and found they were more likely than their less accomplished peers to have creative interests outside of their research. And it might be something like knitting, might be something like singing, performing, acting, writing, glass blowing, who knew? Sculpting, painting. And then when it comes to analyses regarding athletes, there is growing evidence to confirm what we've actually talked about on this show for many years, that multi-sport practice might better prepare an athlete for becoming a world-class athlete in one of those sports later than the old, you start specializing when you're in the crib. When you find out other kids that age already have personal trainers in that sport, and you don't want your kid to be left behind. I think there's some truth to that. Interesting comment that came in much earlier on this subject from Eric in Anoka. And it speaks to the great contradiction on this particular story. Dan, wholeheartedly agree playing multiple sports helps hone a more well-rounded set of sports skill. Not to mention, I think it lessens the likelihood of burnout. But I always wonder if the premier athletes achieve that through multiple sports or if they excelled at multiple sports because they're just simply gifted. Also, most coaches across youth sports and in high school will say multi-sports make the best athletes, but they then also turn around and say, how can you expect to start for me if you're not prioritizing my sport all year round? Terrible cycle, writes Eric from Anoka. He's nailed it. And we've talked to coaches about this before. I've talked to my sister about this. Coach Barreiro, Illinois High School Hall of Fame basketball coach. That, because she tends to believe in multi-sport, but there's also, the pressure put on by many coaches that, you with me or not? You want to be a part of what we're doing? I love that you like volleyball too, but where are we going with this thing? Too much valuable time's being lost. And so there are some individuals, I think, who kind of do, as the texter mentions, tend to talk out of both sides of their mouth on this issue. And it makes, I think, these sorts of stories gain any credibility or momentum. They sound good, but is it all just lip service? Is it just all platitudes? So I don't know what the answer is. I know that it's an ongoing issue. And, he raises an interesting point, too. I mean, in some cases, you're in multiple sports because you're just so good that you can pull it off, where some other kids can't. So they may say, well, no, my kid's not good enough to play 2 or 3 different sports, so I know I got to worry about burnout, but I'd rather him or her concentrate on the sport that they're better at if they really can't, they're not really getting anywhere in some of these other sports. So it's complicated. There's no I don't think there's any hard and fast rules, but I do think it makes some sense that the more we learn about the way the mind works and the way the mind works in conjunction with the body, that if you give yourself some other options to get away from whatever that, all-in thing is, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to get there. It actually means you might get there a little bit faster, or you at least might get there a little healthier because you've gotten away from it enough even to appreciate it and to enjoy it and not get beaten down into the ground down. Does that make sense?
No, I get it. I'll say this, too. There's another aspect of it where, parents, I'm trying to think of my metaphorical non-existent kids, it may be, hockey's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Baseball's pretty expensive.
We just talked about that earlier. Yeah.
It's like, there comes to that standard, too, of well,
that's true.
You can't afford to do all of them. Got to pick one.
Yeah, there is a lot of that, too. You're exactly right.
Let alone trying to be a world-class athlete.
Well, and I think we were talking to Chip about some of the schools, his traditionally powerful powerhouse high school hockey schools no longer existing in that regard. And some of that is financial, too. And so, yeah, there's always lots of extra variables that end up being a part of the story. But I think all this stuff continues to be pretty interesting. Dan, listening in Phoenix, baseball is the sport here. I had 2 boys playing Little League at 9 to 10, was told they were 2 years late to the game and had to play club ball, too. Think about that. You're 9 or 10, and you go, out of luck, man. Should have started at 7 or 8. You're never going to get caught up. So that's what builds the cycle. That's what reinforces the cycle. And you go, no matter what the studies indicate, no matter what we think we learn, we don't live it. And some of that is, as I said earlier, some of that's financial. Because let's be honest, if you've got coaches or you've got personal instructors, whatever, this is how they make their money. How many of them are going to say, you know what, you don't want me? Go bowl. Your kids should go bowl for a while. Just get out of this. Don't mess with this sport for a while. You don't need me. Or, you know what, you could use me, but you don't need to use me year round. Who's going to say that? How many? I mean, they're everybody's got to make a buck, right? Everybody's got to justify their existence. So I'm not sure you really get anywhere, unfortunately. Even if, from a research standpoint, an analytics standpoint, and even a logical standpoint, there's every reason to believe that these studies raise some important points that we should remind kids of when we go, he's all in, man. He's one-track mind. He just wants it more than anybody else. Well, that sounds good, and commitment to the bit's important, obviously. We certainly talk about that regarding professional, football players, basketball players, hockey players, whatever the case may be. But a lot of times the stories that we're brought up with and we think are true across the board are anecdotal, and there's a lot of other occasions where players, athletes were better suited being involved in other things. I know that's always been a big pet peeve for Louis. He's believed that for a long period of time as a guy who used to play a bunch of different sports too. Dan, don't you think specialization and parents think their kid is the next big thing lead to the maniac parents and lack of people who want to officiate? Yeah, it's all related. There's no question about that. And again, there's probably parents out there that say, look, we don't have a lot of money. My kid's got a chance to make, we think, or we've been led to believe, generational wealth for us. It's going to last for a long, long time. So you're going to tell us that we can't maximize that way because we don't have, maybe we can't take things for granted financially like some other people can. And I mean, then those folks look at some of us and say, who are you to judge on how we go about our business? If we have become convinced there are financial implications to the moves we make. The comeback to that, I think, would be from, reasonable coaches is that, no, we get the track you're on. The question is whether this is the best way to maximize even the financial implications. Don't assume that the best way to do that is to have your kid working 24/7 on that sport 12 months out of the year. That is, again, where the mistake might well be revealed. Imagine if parents put this much focus on critical thinking / education and raising kids to be good people. Well, I think some do. I don't want to say some don't, but it's possible. Dan, you just watch. Hear me out. McCarthy is the appointed starter, gets hurt with a setback again, and enter this year's Darnold, Mr. Danny Dimes, who comes from nowhere and takes the Vikings to the NFC title game, where presumably we get killed by the Eagles, 52-7. And he didn't put that in. I did. Possible? I mean, I will tell you that I'm a lot more intrigued by the concept of Dimes as the backup than I am Mullins. Even though I know Mullins can, he can sling it a little bit, but as a backup, I like Jones, and it may be Jones ain't going to cost you all that much after all. If it turns out Darnold isn't going to cost you that much, maybe Jones would obviously cost you even less. So I don't know. I just want this resolved. I mean, you can never talk too much Vikings. You can never talk too much Vikings quarterback. But I'm glad, I think it's going to get resolved fairly early next week. That's all I want. I want some resolution so the Darnold domino can fall, and then the Vikings can go out with the rest of their lives, or the Darnold dilemma will be solved by they found a way to keep him, and then we'll have a lot of there's no question there will be a lot of disappointed Vikings fans. There's the vast majority, at least the loudest ones who text us over especially the last 10 days. They're going to be devastated if the Vikings keep him. They are so into, mentally the idea of moving on. It was nice, but it didn't end all that well. He's got limits. We don't want to spend too much on him, and we got this kid who's got a chance to be the best quarterback in football. He's got all the tools. He just hasn't thrown the ball as much, but that doesn't mean he can't throw. He's athletic. He can move. He can make plays for us. And so there are going to be a lot of disappointed Vikings fans if Darnold is brought back. Now, as a Packer fan looking for the demise of a division rival like the Vikings, what are you rooting for? What, in your mind, is the worst-case scenario? Is it bringing Darnold back? Is it going with JJ? What do you as a guy rooting openly against the purple, what do you want to see happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would feel the worst case is to, as Florio said, to piss off JJ, right?
No, yeah,
if
that's
that
true.
drives him out of town, whether it be Danny Dimes or...
So you wouldn't mind that, you're saying. As a Packer fan, you'd say, yeah, I'd take that.
To me, if I reverse it, if I'm a Vikings fan, I would want to get off the never-ending roller coaster of fill-in quarterbacks that they've had forever.
Right.
And the best chance of doing that, in my opinion, is J.J. McCarthy. So if looking at it from a green and gold perspective, you just want 1 year fill-ins over and over again. We could run down the list.
And then the possibility that in the interim, he gets angry. His agent says, you got to get him out of here.
Correct.
And then it's the best of both worlds because Darnold might struggle some. And the guy they finally drafted as the heir apparent, they got to trade him off because he didn't want to be here. And then the Vikings are back in that same cycle, as you said.
And then he'll go to, Indianapolis or something and do great.
And thrive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That would be delicious.
But from a Packer fan standpoint, you're right. That would be a win-win-win, would it not? Because this is the closest you could say logically the Vikings have come to finally matching sort of the Packers quarterback tradition, right? And that is we either trade well in the case of Favre, or we draft well, and then we got quarterbacks in place for 10 years at a time. Mm-hmm. And that's and that part I get from Vikings fans saying, no, that's what we want. We love the Packers model. We want that. Then again, Packers made Jordan Love wait a while.
Yeah, 3 years.
Unprecedented,
and
right?
some of the texters today say that we're blowing it and that we wasted his rookie contract, which I think is
that's
ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that's a little. And by the way, I mean, he was injured last year. So last year isn't anybody's fault. You can say, well, this would be the second year. But again, I want to be sure. How sure are we that he is, that he's going to be healthy enough to start the season? I have absolutely no idea. What happened to the notion of talking Gopher Hoops? Been 1 hour since the teaser. Listeners dropping fast. Well, I don't know what to tell you. We teased it when we had Chip Scoggins on the show, and we did talk about it. That was, what time we have Chip? 4 o'clock. We talked hockey, high school hockey with him till about 4:15. And then the rest of the way, it was Ben Johnson and Golden Gopher men's basketball. So in that case, we did pay off the tease. May have to go back and podcast it. We can maybe review a little bit of what we had to say and what Chip had to say with us based on the column that he wrote on this very subject. So, yeah, I am notoriously bad for sometimes forgetting to pay off the tease. But in this case, we paid it off big time with an extended conversation with Chipper. Biggest issue is people making the money, make these parents believe they need to go all in. Real coaches, like high school coaches, aren't doing that most of the time. That's a big part of it. It's all that's all sort of now baked into the system, one could say. Met one of the Gopher volleyball players last year, and she told me she didn't even start playing volleyball until 9th grade. It's starting too late stuff is BS. Well, again, it probably is in some cases. There are late bloomers, and maybe those, if you are a late bloomer, it means you're less likely to burn out, which I do think is, can be a bit of a factor as well. This is, what's that? I thought, no, but I took the 42 though. I thought we could go to 15.
No, we get the 57. Sorry. Do you want me to?
No, I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
So I took the 42. I am confused because I thought I took a 27 and then I took a 42, which means usually you're going from 45 to 15. To 12.
I've got an extra one here, so I'm sorry.
All right, I'll go ahead and play.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
The ultimate day of heavy metal is coming to Somerset Amphitheater. Don't miss out on the Summer of Loud 2025, July 11th, with performances from Parkway Drive, I Prevail, Beartooth, and more. KFAN.com, keyword calendar for more.
How many more breaks do we need before we wrap up at 6:30? 3 more?
We've got the 15, and then that's it.
Okay, you're sure?
I'm absolutely positive.
I'll take your word for it. LeBron James, arguably the most talented athlete in the last 40, 50 years, played high school football his sophomore and junior years. He only stopped playing football when he was the projected number 1 pick in the NBA draft. Sorry, your kid ain't the next LeBron. Play multiple sports. On the other hand, you don't have to be the next LeBron to still perhaps earn a pretty good living, right, in whatever the sport might be. And that's where it gets easy to lecture and to say, play a bunch of different sports, kid, when in fact the parents are saying, well, this might be our meal ticket. It gets... so I don't want to lecture too much, but I do think it is interesting to consider these stories that, and again, whether we're talking about, we don't have to be talking about sports. A lot of what we quoted had to do with entrepreneurship and even successful folks in other jobs. And I think we're all, born and bred, led to believe it's the old, you got to be all singular focus. It's all, you want it. That's what you really want it. You want it bad. Well, it may be more complicated than that, is what I think we're saying, that, in fact, wanting it bad, being successful in whatever the event might be, the activity, you might be better off branching out, right? Dry throat. Speak to me.
No, I get it. I don't know. Like, for me, when it comes to like this whole, like, is it knitting? Because, like, here's another spin zone. What do we say about Kyler Murray every year? That he always plays Call of Duty once the new Call of Duty comes out, he just can't handle it. So I don't know, like, do you consider that just some other in the same category as knitting or bowling, or, I saw Sauce
It's an interesting
Gardner.
point. Yeah, you're right. Because we mock him for that.
Correct.
I think it's, in that case, it's a belief that it can't just be knitting, or it can't just be that game. It has to be, you have to actually study the opposition. You have to anticipate the blitzes and so forth. I think it's more that, but it does raise interesting questions for sure. 64686, that's the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. I think I'm having like a Halvy experience where I'm not out of breath, but I just got dry throat all of a sudden. Fortunately, I have a little bit of water. I quickly turned the radio down to take a phone call, and I turned back in. I heard a commercial. Did you guys take an early break or something? That's from Flim Flam getting in on the bit. Somebody else says the Plus does not have Halvy on the hockey call. It's Fox National. Is that true, or are they just dialed up on the internet incorrectly?
That's what I'm hearing as well. So I think we'll just pick up in progress at 6:30.
Ah, okay. So maybe we're misinformed on that.
Yeah, they just dropped the puck, Moorhead, Lakeville South.
Well, that might be part of it, too. So. Yeah, I see. You're exactly. Yeah, you're right. So we do know this. This much is confirmed. When we wrap up at 6:30, we will pick up the third quarterfinal game, which will already be in progress at that point. All right, let's do this. Let's get back on schedule. We'll wrap up the program, remind you what you might have missed earlier in the show, and we'll give you a little bit of a sample of what Chip Scoggins and I talked about regarding the Golden Gopher men's basketball program, and we'll let you know what we got coming up tomorrow.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
It's brought to you by American Pressure.
The number one issue really number one question, I guess, moving forward for Golden Gopher men's basketball, as explored by Chip Scoggins in a column he wrote today that's online that we discussed with him between 4 and 4:30, is whether Ben Johnson is done. And the commitment appears to be pretty significant financially for next year, that Coyle seems intent on making sure there is enough money to be competitive in the Big Ten, or if you are not competitive, it won't be because everybody's leaving because there's better money elsewhere. The question is whether you give Ben Johnson a chance under those new parameters, or you just make a clean break moving forward. Reading the tea leaves, I think Chip's view, on the basis of the people he's talking to, the sense it seems he gets is that it may well be the end of the road for Ben Johnson. He didn't say that declaratively, but he hinted at it. And so that's really what we talked about between 4 and 4:30. You can podcast the show later, and you'll get good conversation on that and some high school hockey projects that Chip Scoggins here on State High School Hockey Tournament Week has been writing and putting together as well. In addition, we had Russo Radio at 3:30 Dateline Vancouver on the latest trade rumors involving the Wild. The trade deadline is tomorrow. I think it's 2 o'clock Central Time, so we'll know if there's something big the Wild do pull off. We'll be able to examine it and react to it after 3 o'clock on the program. This is a new one on me. Did you see this one? This is via the NFL Network. Something called Move the Sticks and Greg Rosenthal. A new NFL offseason limited series on podcast platforms suggesting that Kirk Cousins could end up back in Minnesota this year. The premise is Darnold leaves, and because Atlanta's got that ridiculous contract for him, it wouldn't cost the Vikings much at all to bring him back here, presumably to be the backup, insurance, if indeed JJ is ready or not. That would be a rather eye-opening. I didn't see that one coming. Did you? Among the possibilities for 2025, that's a new one for me.
There's nothing we love more in this town than old players coming back to the team.
That's true.
It's just, there's something about it that we love.
Man, that would be remarkable.
The question is,
stay tuned.
Would it be a 1 year prove it? Or would it be you're the backup?
I have no idea. In this case, I would think it'd be even clearer that he's going to come in as the backup. And maybe he's ready for that too. I have no idea. What a weird twist and turn the Cousins run in the National Football League has taken most recently, right? It's remarkable. Leaving here, getting the big money for Atlanta, and he can't even last a full season. And I don't think he is particularly healthy. I think that's part of it. I don't know if that's all of it, but it might be the kind of health issue that he, from which he can never quite recover. Specialize and make $40 million for 2 years being the backup quarterback. Count me in. The diabolical nature of golf is people play golf to relax, but golf is so damn difficult, it can drive you mad. Quite the conundrum. Yeah, golf might not be the best diversion for some people. I guess it depends on your approach, right? Yeah. Are you much of a golfer?
I love it.
You do?
It's one of my favorite things ever.
Playing, not just watching.
Playing, okay. Yeah. Right. No, I'm not very good, but I love it.
A pastor here, years ago, early 2000s, I had a confirmation class of very talented athletic young women who were absolutely burned out as 8th graders with basketball after playing since they were 4 and 5 years old. They hated their sport. Why do you play? I asked them. Because my parents make me. Was their answer to a one. That is an interesting story, and I guess kind of underscores a bit of the difficulty as well. We talked a lot about that subject, about what it really means when we say you're all in, and whether being all in is all it's cracked up to be in what has been classified over the decades as the conventional sense. A lot of talk about that early in the broadcast, and then later on as well. So were you sure we don't need to take another break before the end of the show?
I'm absolutely positive.
And I apologize for, again, losing track of the breaks. I thought I had done it differently, the 5 o'clock hour, but then you reminded me. What happened is we went long with Halvy. Yeah. And so that put us a little behind schedule. And that's another thing. We had Halvy in basically like 8 years apart. Halvy live from the X this year at the State High School Hockey Tournament. And Halvy from anywhere from between 5 and 8 years ago. We don't really know when. The famous Halvy, Out of Breath Halvy. And we gave him a chance to sort of listen to it live again. So that was part of today's Top 5 at 5. I think Guardsy's back tomorrow, but all bets are off.
I have breaking news.
He's not.
He is.
He is back?
He
It's
is back
official?
tomorrow. I've got
It's
the
been
text.
confirmed?
I've got the confirmation. He's back.
Guest link tomorrow. We'll see what he thinks about this new Kirk Cousins speculation, which I have a hunch falls into the classification of we got a new podcast, and we need to say something pretty dramatic to get some attention, and they're getting it, at least a little bit from us. Also tomorrow, I'm assuming Lavelle, who joined us in studio a week. Oh, no, he won't be in studio because he's in Florida. He's in spring training. Mm-hmm. So he will check in from Florida. And what else do we have tomorrow? I think that's it that's scheduled for right now. Maybe more Halvy at the Top 5 at 5. Yeah. On semifinal night. Who's to say? That might work, too.
There's a barn burner going on here.
What do we got? What do we got going?
2-1 Lakeville South here. Ooh. I'm not sure there's any goaltenders in the game because there's only 4 shots and 2 shots, yet the score is 2-1.
2-1 already. So yeah. It's going to be a shootout, it appears, early, right?
Yeah, looks good. And Moorhead's like by far away everyone's favorite to win the whole thing.
Big time. Halvy said they're prohibitive favorites, and they're down early. They are the number 1 seed.
They are.
Yeah, finally. All right, that's the music. So podcast at your leisure for what I think was a reasonably eclectic program today, in which we also covered the latest Kevin Durant to Minnesota Timberwolves rumors. So a little bit of something for everybody today. Hopefully there'll be more of the same on tomorrow's broadcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, coming up right here on the Fan, it's Halvy from the X with State High School Hockey Tournament action live. Stay tuned.
I'll be there whenever you... Heck of a hockey game, the second of 2 great games here at the X thus far. Hermantown.
I'll be Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
The lottery is not about getting rich. It's about helping people. And it always has been. The lottery is what helped raise the Great Wall of China, build the roads of Rome, and today, in South Carolina, it's what generates millions of dollars each year for scholarships like the SC Hope, Life, and Palmetto Fellows. The South Carolina Education Lottery is investing in you. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou to learn more.
Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly.